On my 5th wedding anniversary with Elena Summers, I took a special day off, decorated the house in advance, and cooked a large meal myself, wanting to give her a surprise. But she didn't come home. Later, I found out that her white moonlight had returned, and the reason she didn't come home was that she went to the welcome banquet for her white moonlight. When I received Sarah Chen's call, I hadn't slept all night and was sitting on the sofa smoking to stay awake. Although I was a bit listless, my mind was still clear, and I remembered that she was Elena's best friend. I eagerly answered the phone. "Hello, Sister Sarah. Is there news about Elena?" It was a bit noisy on the other end. She hesitated for a while and finally said, "Nathan Rivers, Elena is drunk. We're at Trick's bar. Can you come pick her up?" "Okay. Please help me take care of Elena. I'll be there soon." My tone was calm, as if I didn't care at all that yesterday I had called her to ask about Elena's whereabouts and had been hung up on. What was there to care about? She probably did that at Elena's behest. I washed my face with cold water, tidied myself up, and left with my car keys. When I pushed open the door of the private room Sarah had told me about, Elena was pulling a young boy in a uniform, trying to get him to drink. The boy, blushing, stammered, "I'm sorry, we don't provide drinking services here." His naive appearance made everyone laugh, and they all jeered. "It's not about drinking on the job, just having a drink with us." "That's right, what are you afraid of? It won't kill you. Miss Summers is such a beauty, you're not even tempted." "Hey, who's that at the door?" "He's handsome." "Who ordered him?" Thanks to my somewhat handsome face, the group of drunk people finally noticed me. Elena followed their gaze and looked at me, squinting her eyes that were red from the alcohol, and slurred, "Who let you come?" She seemed a little angry, but her childish appearance and soft voice didn't make her threatening at all. It was more like she was being coy. Ignoring her resistance, I put the coat I had brought over her shoulders and then snatched the half glass of wine from her hand and drank it all. "Everyone, sorry. I'll take Elena home first. We'll get together again next time." Sarah was the first to react, waving her hand. "We'll let you two off this time. You guys go first. When Elena sobers up, tell her that we won't let her off so easily next time." "Okay, I will tell her." I responded to Elena's friends with good temper, carried her out of the private room on my back, and took the bewildered waiter along with us. The waiter thanked me repeatedly and saw us all the way outside. Because I'd been drinking, I didn't get into the car right away and simply walked around outside with Elena on my back. The cold wind sobered her up a bit, and she grumbled discontentedly, "Walk slower, it's making me dizzy." "How is that my fault?" "It's clearly because you drank too much." "I don't care, just walk slower." She wrapped her arms tightly around my neck as if threatening me. I surrendered helplessly. Okay, I'll walk slower." I slowed down, and she relaxed her arms, her face resting on my shoulder, quiet as if she were asleep. After a while, I heard Elena say, "Nathan Rivers, he's back." We both knew who he was. I didn't speak, silently continuing forward as if I were avoiding something. After a while, Elena leaned into my ear and whispered, "Nathan, should we get a divorce?" Her voice was very pleasant, delicate and charming, and even these words sounded like she was acting coy. I never had any resistance to her coyness, so even though my heart felt like it had a hole in it, I still answered with a smile, "Okay." Elena and I were a typical poor boy and rich young lady combination, an unequal match that many people disapproved of back then. But Elena was determined to marry me, and no one could dissuade her. In the end, the Summers family compromised and granted her wish. Now we'd been married for 5 years. The voices of disapproval had disappeared, and Elena's family and friends seemed to have accepted me, at least on the surface. Many people who didn't know the truth thought it was because the young lady's love brain was acting up and she had fallen in love with a penniless poor boy. But only we knew that our marriage was just a transaction. She paid the money, and I accompanied her to play out a seemingly beautiful romantic fairy tale. Elena had a childhood sweetheart who was also the white moonlight she had loved for many years. That person was called Marcus Hale. Like Elena, he was born into a wealthy family. He'd been outstanding since he was a child and was a veritable young master. He was 1 year older than me, with a gentle and considerate personality and without the aloofness of the wealthy. We met during a competition and quickly became familiar, becoming good friends. It was also through him that I met Elena. The first time I saw Elena, I was 19 years old, in the second semester of my freshman year. That day, I finished my part-time job and was returning to school. Just about to enter the school gate, I was suddenly stopped by a girl. The girl tightly grabbed my arm, her eyes red like a rabbit, and said pitifully, "Classmate, my bag was stolen. Can you lend me your phone for a moment? I need to make a call to someone I know." That girl was Elena, and the someone I know she mentioned was naturally Marcus. At first, Marcus introduced Elena as his younger sister. Because she looked young, I thought she was really Marcus's younger sister, and I called her little sister too. Later, I learned that she was actually a year older than me, the same age as Marcus. I didn't pay much attention. After all, it was just a matter of address. But Elena cared a lot. She said very seriously to me, "Don't call me little sister." At first, I thought she didn't like being called young, but later I understood that she just didn't want to be Marcus's sister. I forgot how I found out that Elena liked Marcus. I only remember that after I exposed her feelings, she blushed and stammered, directly throwing her bag at me as hush money. After that, she started to ask me about Marcus from time to time. I refused for a while, but in the end, I shamefully complied. There was no way, she gave too much. So she provided the money, and I provided the labor. We colluded like paparazzi behind a celebrity, studying Marcus from every angle and even writing a huge pile of strategy manuals. I had complained countless times, telling Elena to directly confess her feelings, but she always said she needed to wait until she could confess to Marcus in her best form. This wait led to trouble. Just as Elena was spending a lot of time and energy preparing for her confession, Marcus eloped with his mysterious lover. No one knew where Marcus went. They only knew he left decisively, and the Hale family also announced his disownment. The incident was sudden, and Elena was greatly shocked. But she had already announced to the outside world that she was going to confess to the person she liked. The pain of heartbreak combined with a little self-esteem made Elena turn around and attach that grand confession to me. Did I think it was a pie falling from the sky? Of course not. The gap between Elena and me was too big, and as soon as she confessed, a large number of people opposed it. During that time, I was under immense pressure, walking outside trembling with fear, afraid of being ambushed. Everyone was guessing when Miss Summers would kick me aside, but they were disappointed. The young lady's stubbornness lasted a bit long, and in the end, she insisted on getting a marriage certificate with me. The day before the wedding, I tried to persuade her again, saying, "Miss, marriage is not child's play. What's the big deal about being heartbroken? Don't waste your entire life just to save face. It's not worth it." But she said, "Anyway, I can't marry Marcus, so it's the same whoever I marry. We've come this far. If you don't help me, I'll just find someone random to marry." Maybe it was because I couldn't bear to lose the young lady's money, or maybe I couldn't bear to see her really ruin herself, or maybe it was a feeling that even I couldn't explain. In the end, we got married within days, and we lived for 5 years. Within days. And now, this farcical marriage was finally coming to an end. "Nathan, which dress do you think I should wear?" Elena stood in front of the mirror, gesturing left and right, unable to choose a satisfying one. I was replying to messages on my phone, glanced casually, and chose the one on the right. The red one. "You chose so quickly. Did you even look seriously?" Elena complained non-stop, but her body was very honest, and she changed into the dress I chose. She ran in front of me and spun around, her eyes a little nervous. "How is it? Does it look good?" "It looks good. Don't lie to me, or I'll get angry." I put down my phone and looked at her seriously. "It really looks good." Perhaps my praise was too direct. She touched the hair at her temple as if a little shy, but the next second she widened her eyes and regained her confident look. "Of course I do. I'm Miss Summers. Of course I look good." Yes, you look the best." I pointed at my watch and reminded her, "Pay attention to the time, Mississippi, don't be late." "Oh no." She grabbed her bag on the table, her movements suddenly quickened. She walked to the door, then turned back and waved at me vigorously. "Nathan, I'm leaving. I'll report back the results when I return." I also waved back. Hurry up, or you won't make it. Hearing the sound of the car starting outside, I dropped my smile. I pulled out a cigarette from my pocket and lit it. The smoke blurred my vision, and I couldn't help but laugh self-deprecatingly. I'm probably the most generous husband in the world. My wife went to see her white moonlight, and not only was I not angry, but I even helped her choose clothes and jewelry, smiling the entire time. But what right do I have to be angry? After all, it's something I knew all along. And besides, she's not my wife anymore. Elena wasn't a good drinker, and her drinking habits were bad. When she got drunk, she often had memory lapses, and after waking up, she'd forget all the stupid things she had done. But she remembered clearly the matter of divorcing me. That day, and within a couple of days, she had her lawyer draft a divorce agreement. She was always generous, giving me more than enough property to the point that it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that I achieved financial freedom through this divorce. I only glanced at it before signing, because no matter how I looked at it, I wasn't at a loss. After signing and waiting the required time, we went to the Civil Affairs Bureau and obtained our divorce certificate. The process went very smoothly. The day after getting our divorce certificate, which was today, she made plans to confess to her white moonlight. Perhaps having learned from past mistakes, this time she planned to strike quickly, making a swift move as soon as she was single again. Years of deep affection and unchanging devotion. If I were Marcus, I would definitely be moved. But unfortunately, I'm not, so Elena's confession is destined to fail. After all, the mysterious lover who eloped with Marcus back then was a man. When she learns the truth that the white moonlight she secretly loved for years is of the same sexual orientation as herself, I wonder what kind of expression she'll make. She'll probably cry miserably, right? I exhaled a puff of smoke, thinking gloatingly. Who asked her to propose divorce so suddenly, causing me to be fiercely besieged by a bunch of people who didn't know the truth? Let's just call it a little bit of revenge on my part. I really am a bad man. Although I'm a bad man, I can only surrender when it comes to Elena. After all, she's my sugar mama. From college until now, she's given me a lot of help. One can't be without conscience. So when she called me crying, I immediately rushed out the door. When I found her, she was sitting on the steps of the park. Her high heels and handbag were tossed aside, her hair was a mess, her eyes were red, and tears were clinging to her eyelashes. She had her arms wrapped around her knees and was staring straight into the distance, as if she had lost her soul, which was heartbreaking. I walked up to her and squatted down, gently calling out, "Elena." "Nathan." She called out my name in a hoarse voice. I nodded in response. "I'm here." Her mouth quivered, and she suddenly burst into loud sobs. "Why did you only come now?" Her crying made us the center of attention, and passers-by cast curious glances our way. All right, don't cry. So many people are watching. Mind your own business." I'll cry. As if she was throwing a tantrum, she cried even louder, completely disregarding her image like a child rolling around on the ground unsatisfied. "I'm crying." Hiccup. "Crying." Hiccup. "What's wrong with that?" Yeah, it's okay. Cry it all out, and you'll be fine." I patted her back to help her calm down while silently thinking to myself, if I were Marcus, I could probably say a few words and make her happy. But I'm not her beloved, and no matter how hard I try, I can't make her smile. So I can only silently sit beside her and bear being gawked at by the passers-by along with her. After crying for a while, Elena was too exhausted to wail anymore, and she leaned softly on my shoulder. I bet she was secretly using my clothes to wipe her tears and snot, but considering that she was really upset this time, I didn't call her out on it. After letting out her emotions, she felt much better. Her desire to talk was explosive, and she began to ramble about what had happened today. I really didn't want to know where she and Marcus had gone or what they had talked about, but I still pretended to listen attentively, giving her responses from time to time. I thought I was doing a pretty good job of acting, but Elena, who was usually very easy to fool, suddenly turned on her intelligence, looking at me suspiciously. "Nathan Rivers, why aren't you surprised?" "Surprised by what?" "Oh, the fact that Marcus likes men." "Damn it. Miscalculated. I didn't make the right expression." Since I'd been exposed, I couldn't be bothered to hide it anymore and generously admitted, because I knew about this. You knew. Elena raised her voice, grabbing my arm. You knew and didn't tell me. Did you want to watch me make a fool of myself? She was angry. I thought she would yell at me or get so angry that she would turn and run away. But she didn't. She bit her lip, her eyes red-rimmed, tears streaming down her cheeks drop by drop, full of grievance. This kind of silent crying is the most heart-wrenching. Why are you crying again? I raised my hand to help wipe the tears from the corners of her eyes, but she turned her face away, sulking like an inflated pufferfish, and was rather cute. If I said I didn't do it on purpose, would you believe me? This was half true and half false, but Elena believed it. She sniffled and sobbed, saying, "Then you have to give me a reasonable explanation, or I definitely won't let you off the hook." I pretended to think for a while, then explained. 2 reasons. 1, I only knew a little earlier than you, and I wasn't sure if the news was true. 2, you've wanted to confess to him for so many years. If I suddenly told you not to go, would you agree? Elena thought for a moment and said seriously, "No, I wouldn't." Yes, I knew, so I didn't stop you. You had to try, had to hit a wall to finally let go of your obsession of so many years. I was originally worried that she would stir up trouble again after being rejected, like marrying someone at random 5 years ago. But now it seemed her emotions were quite stable. Shall I take you home now? I picked up Elena's shoes and bag that she had thrown aside and squatted down with my back to her. She hesitated for a moment, then climbed onto my back quite skillfully, wrapping her arms around my neck. Nathan Rivers, let me tell you, I'm still not over it. Oh dear, what should we do? So you better think of a way quick. Otherwise, she was probably really angry, even using a threatening tone, though it still wasn't very intimidating. But I, being agreeable, pretended to be scared and carried her to a roadside cart and negotiated. I'll buy you candied hawthorns. Will you stop being angry? You think you can buy me off with 1 candied hawthorn? I thought she was right, so I added more. Then how about 2? Okay. That meant she agreed. The old lady selling candied hawthorns had a full head of silver hair. She happily wrapped 2 candied hawthorns and handed them to us, sighing, "You two are still so close." Elena and I were both stunned. She looked closely and exclaimed in surprise, "You're the grandma at the school gate." The old lady was very happy that we remembered her and gave us another candied hawthorn. "Take it. Thank you for taking care of my business in the past. I wish you a long and happy life together." I was a little embarrassed, but ultimately accepted the old lady's kindness. I couldn't tell the old woman that we weren't a couple back then and that we're already divorced now, could I? I was afraid that would shatter the old lady's simple worldview. Elena, on the other hand, was quite happy and eagerly started eating. Ah, after all these years, it's still the same taste. Be careful, don't get it on me. Mind your own business, just walk. She finished her candied hawthorns while directing me towards the lake in the park. We circled around the cobblestone path a few times, and I was getting a little tired. Just as I was thinking about how to get the little princess on my back to agree to go home, she suddenly leaned close to my ear and said softly, "Nathan, thank you." Oh, has the little miss had a change of heart? Realized she was too much this time. Not just this time, but every time, she corrected me seriously. "Thank you for everything all these years." A breeze blew across the lake, rippling the water. It suddenly dawned on me that I was 28 years old. So many years have passed. I met Elena when I was 19, and the same year I realized she had a crush on Marcus. She always thought she was hiding it well, but you can't hide your feelings. The way she looked at Marcus was always sparkling. She was always unconsciously nervous when facing Marcus, and she always appeared around Marcus as if by chance, secretly watching him. Marcus was too dazzling. There were too many people around him. She was drowned in the crowd of admirers, unnoticed. But I knew. So when I saw Elena hiding behind a tree again, I couldn't help but ask, "Why don't you just confess?" In my opinion, she was beautiful, from a good family, and they had a childhood connection. The chances of her confession succeeding were high. She was startled by me, her face flushed red, and she couldn't say a word. She shoved the bag she was holding into my arms and fled, leaving behind the words, "hush money." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I gave the bag to Marcus, asking him to return it, considering it a reason for them to meet. Unfortunately, Elena was too useless, playing a good hand badly. Despite having the advantage of being his childhood friend, her presence around Marcus was not as significant as mine, even though I was a year younger. I remember that there was a time when a very capable senior from the same department openly pursued Marcus. Many people were gossiping and watching, saying that they were a perfect match, a match made in heaven. Actually, anyone who was close to Marcus knew that he was not interested in that senior. But Elena was jealous. She compared herself to the senior, and in despair, she went out to eat supper, trying to suppress her sadness with food. As a result, she got caught in a downpour on her way back to school and tripped, falling miserably. As for how I knew, it was just a coincidence. I just happened to be working at that late-night snack shop and happened to see her fall. Because we knew each other, I asked my boss for leave and carried the injured Elena to the hospital on my back. At first, she was strong and silent, but after a few minutes, she couldn't help but cry. Tears dripped onto my neck, cold and clammy. Actually, Senior Marcus doesn't like that senior sister. He rejected her. Really? Of course it's true. Why would I lie to you? Elena stopped crying. My back was to her, so I couldn't see her expression, but I thought she must be happy. After walking for a while, she asked cautiously, "You're called Nathan Rivers, right? Can you tell me some things about Brother Marcus?" She was timid, like a rabbit cautiously poking its head out of its burrow. I felt like teasing her and joked, "Huh? Why should I tell you? I saw you working. Are you short on money? I can give you money." I remained silent. As if realizing something, her fingers gripping my clothes tightened, and she said urgently, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. It's okay, I interrupted her and picked up the conversation again. "How much can you give me?" She whispered a number, and I almost fell to my knees, struck once again by the inequality of the world. But I really was poor. My parents had passed away in an accident when I was in middle school, leaving only my grandmother and me to rely on each other. They hadn't left much money, and my grandmother's health wasn't good. I was able to grow up safely and get into university partly due to the help of kind people around me and partly because I was a good student and didn't spend much on school. Hearing the price Elena mentioned, my last bit of hesitation disappeared. I apologized to Senior Marcus in my heart and officially became Miss Summers's spy. I not only carefully observed Marcus's preferences and the pursuers around him and reported them to her, but I also brought her to Marcus's gatherings under the guise of friendship and even occasionally created some alone time for them. I thought I was doing a great job, but unfortunately, Elena was useless. She dragged it out for so many years and was still just a younger sister in Marcus's eyes. In fact, because she got close to Marcus, he often used me as an excuse, which led some people to misunderstand our relationship. After being teased, she complained to me, "Why is this happening? What if Brother Marcus also misunderstands?" "Miss, it's not my fault." I didn't say anything. "I've explained it, but what can I do if people don't believe me? Why don't you just confess? That way, no one will misunderstand." But the moment confession was mentioned, she wilted again. "Forget it. Let's not contact each other for a while and wait for the situation to calm down. If someone says something bad, you have to explain it for me." After leaving those words, she really didn't contact me for a long time. Even my roommate was curious. "What happened to the girl who was always with you? Did you guys break up?" "Break up? We were never that kind of relationship." My roommate smiled knowingly, clearly not believing me, and I was too lazy to explain it again and again. Elena and I were impossible. In time, they would naturally understand. My grandmother got sick, and all of our savings were spent, but she didn't get better. Without Miss Summers spending money, my income shrank a lot. In order to make money, I started my hard life working again. Through an introduction, I got a job as a waiter in a restaurant. That restaurant wasn't much to rich people, but for poor students like me, it was the epitome of luxury. If I hadn't been working there, I probably would never have even gone near it in my life. Perhaps I was unlucky, but only half a month into the job, I ran into my nemesis. That person was my classmate, a rich second generation. I had once rejected his application for financial aid, and then due to academic matters and other issues, conflicts had accumulated between us. From then on, he had unilaterally considered me his mortal enemy. I thought he was making a big fuss over nothing and usually tried to avoid him. But fate was inescapable, and we met here. In front of a table full of people, he was deliberately making things difficult for me, saying that the water temperature was wrong 1 minute and that the food didn't taste good the next. The main goal was to find fault, determined not to let me have an easy time. I ran back and forth so many times that even the supervisor began to show displeasure towards me. Anyone could see that I was being deliberately targeted, but no one spoke up. The wealthy second generation and the powerless poor student, everyone knew which side to choose. Perhaps he was losing interest in me being so obedient. He pointed at a bottle of white wine on the table and said with a smirk, "How about this? You drink one with the brothers, and after you finish it, we'll let your poor service this time slide. How does that sound?" I stood frozen in place for a long time, but eventually, I picked up the bottle of wine. Drinking a bottle of wine to make things easier for myself wasn't so bad. Besides, this wine was quite expensive. I definitely couldn't afford it myself. It was a bargain. I picked up the wine bottle, opened it, and was just about to gulp it down when a slender white arm reached out and grabbed my wrist. "Nathan, don't drink." Elena, whom I hadn't seen for days, stood beside me, her beautiful eyes blazing with anger. She snatched the bottle of wine from my hand and splashed it onto the table of the wealthy second generation. "Holy crap, who are you? What are you doing?" The wealthy second generation was hopping mad, cursing and swearing, threatening to make us pay. Elena didn't flinch at all, took out her phone, and made a call. Hanging up after a few words, she stood in front of me, slamming the table hard. "Come on, Miss Summers is right here waiting. See how you're going to mess with me." The wealthy second generation, pointing a finger at her nose, was about to start cursing when his phone suddenly rang. He glanced at it, overjoyed, and said, "You're finished," before answering the call, only to be immediately bombarded with a barrage of curses from the other end. At the same time, the restaurant manager, sweating profusely, finally arrived, fussing over Elena and asking if she was all right. The scene was too chaotic. My mind was blank, and I couldn't do anything but stand there like a fool. In the end, the arrogant wealthy second generation changed his tune on the spot, licking his boots and apologizing to us, even calling me Brother Nathan. The blind manager suddenly regained his sight and apologized to me, telling me to let him know next time I encountered difficult customers. I seemed to become the center of attention, surrounded by everyone, but I couldn't hear a word they were saying. Looking at Elena's petite back, I thought she was unbelievably cool. At that moment, when the restaurant manager respectfully saw us out, my mind was still blank, and I just mechanically followed Elena. She criticized me, frustrated. "Nathan Rivers, what's wrong with you? How can you let people bully you like that?" I snapped out of it, put on my usual smile, and said nonchalantly, "It was just some drinks. It's no big deal." "What drinks? Can't you see he was just bullying you?" She stomped her feet, hands on her hips, like an angry bird. I couldn't understand why she was so angry. I wasn't even that bothered myself. But she was my sugar mama, and she had helped me out, so I wouldn't be ungrateful. I put my hands together in a gesture of respect, lowering my gaze. Okay, don't be angry. Thank you, miss, for standing up for me. Let's not get angry over those small-minded people, all right?" Elena's expression was still sour as she kicked a stone on the ground. She hesitated for a few seconds, then hesitantly asked, "Nathan, are you short on money lately?" "Yeah, super short." I was always honest about this, because there are two things in the world that never stay in place. One of them is poverty. "Then why didn't you tell me?" Hearing Elena's accusation, I didn't know how to respond. After all, our relationship was essentially one of employment. If I went too far and tried to borrow money from my employer, it would be incredibly inappropriate. My silence didn't shut her up. She tugged on my sleeve, and when I looked down, she met my eyes, her gaze serious. "Nathan Rivers, you're my good friend. If you need anything, you have to tell me. I will definitely help you." My nose tingled, and I suddenly felt like crying. How embarrassing. I looked up at the sky, trying not to let the tears fall. Elena pinched the soft flesh on my waist, dissatisfied. What do you mean? Say something. Sorry, I was wrong. I'm just too touched. Not sincere at all. She reached out to tickle me, but I dodged her nimbly. We playfully fought, and the previous unpleasantness disappeared in laughter. But when fate wants to make things difficult, it doesn't show any mercy. My phone rang. It was from the hospital. My grandmother's condition had suddenly worsened, and she was in the emergency room. I frantically hailed a taxi to the hospital. Standing outside the emergency room, looking at the emergency treatment sign, my limbs went cold. I told myself to calm down, but my entire body wouldn't listen to me. I couldn't even hear what the doctor was saying to me. In the end, Elena helped me. The usually confused little girl became incredibly reliable, helping me complete payment and signing forms as instructed by the doctors and sitting with me, crouching at the door of the emergency room. The hospital at night was cold, but Elena was warm, and she leaned against me, her warmth transferring to me. I couldn't help but hug her, resting my head on her shoulder. The tears that I had finally managed to hold back started to pour out uncontrollably. So embarrassing. She didn't laugh at me, and she didn't push me away. She patted my back clumsily and whispered, "It's okay, Nathan. Don't be scared. Everything will be all right." I didn't say anything, just tightened my arms around her. I hugged her as if I was hugging the sun. I knew the sun didn't belong to me, but at this moment, she was by my side. It was a close call, but my grandmother was fine. And with Elena's help, my financial burden was also much lighter. I didn't know how to repay her, so I could only try harder to help her strategize her pursuit of love and rack my brains to make her happy. Because of her sticking up for me, no one in school bothered me anymore. In fact, many people tried to get close to me. Although some people gossiped behind my back, calling me a kept man, I didn't care. They were just sour grapes. Being the young Mrs. Number 1 lackey came with such good treatment. I couldn't bear to let it go. I knew that I wasn't in the same world as Elena, but that didn't matter. Even if it was for a short time, being able to stay by her side and repay her for her help was enough for me. I was doing a very good job as her number 1 lackey. When she was sad, I was the first to comfort her. When she was happy, I was the first to offer my blessings. When her love dreams shattered, I was there to help her heal her wounds. When she had the urge to start a business, I accompanied her everywhere she went. But I couldn't be with her forever. So I set a time for myself, the day the young miss got tired of playing the perfect marriage game and was able to walk out of her heartbreak and start living a happy life again. That's when I would leave. I thought that day would come quickly, but from the time we met until now, 9 years had passed. I thought that day was still far away, but now it seemed like the time had come. The young miss had grown up, and it was time for me to leave as well. Nathan Rivers, where have you been? Has there been a lot going on at school lately? Why haven't you been home? When I received Elena's call, my application to study abroad had already been approved. All the paperwork was done. I was just waiting for the time to get on the plane. While putting a label on the box in my hand, I replied, "Elena, we're divorced, so." "What does that mean?" "You're going to ignore me." "That's not what I mean." "I mean, we're divorced, so we shouldn't live together anymore." She seemed to be choked up, paused for a few seconds, and then shouted, "Hey, how annoying." I knew I shouldn't have gotten a divorce. It's so annoying lately. My parents and Sarah and them keep nagging me, asking me why I got a divorce. It's so annoying. I knew exactly what she meant, because I was being asked by a bunch of people why we got divorced as well. It seemed everyone was pitying us, just like how 5 years ago everyone had disapproved of us getting married. It's okay. Let them talk. It'll be fine in a while. I tried to reassure Elena, chatting with her like a friend. What are you planning to do now? It's impossible with Marcus. What kind of person are you looking for next? Nathan Rivers, I want to hit you. Why do you have to bring up sad topics? My maiden heart has taken a big hit. I'm really sorry, but seeing that you don't seem too heartbroken, I'm relieved. You're talking like I'm a kid. She grumbled, sighing a long sigh, her voice somewhat melancholy. To be honest, I never thought that so many years of liking him would end up like this. But now I feel more relaxed. In the future, I'll probably start a new relationship happily. Is that so? Then if you start a new relationship, would you consider me? My fingertips gripping the phone turned a little white, and I held my breath nervously. The world became silent, and all I could hear was the sound of my heart pounding in my chest. Thump, thump. There was silence on the other end of the phone, and after a while, Elena's lively voice came. Nathan Rivers, you're so annoying. If you make this kind of joke again, I'll crawl through the internet and smash your dog head. Ah, I knew it would be like this. Actually, I had said similar things several times before, but each time she would change the subject. I didn't know if she really didn't understand or if she was just pretending not to, but it didn't matter anymore. I chuckled. Okay, I won't say it anymore. I won't say it again in the future. We chatted for a while longer, and then Elena changed the subject excitedly, proposing, Nathan, let's go on a trip. Let's relax and get away from my parents and their nagging. She was always impulsive like this. In the past, I'd almost never rejected her, but now I had to say no. I can't, Elena. I have to go. She paused for a moment, her tone turning urgent. Go, where are you going? Did someone bully you? Tell me, I'll help you get even. She was still the same as before, always afraid that I would get bullied and saying that she would help me get even. Because of this, my grandmother would always poke my head and say I was too soft, making my wife worry. Then she would take my hand and tell me to treat her well. In the blink of an eye, it had been 2 years since my grandmother passed away. She really liked Elena and had always thought that we had married out of love. She was very happy when she left, with a smile on her lips. Thank goodness. If she had known that we got divorced, she probably would have worried. I took a deep breath and slowly said, no one bullied me, Elena. I'm going abroad to study. It will probably be 3 years. I'll be pretty busy. I won't be able to be with you in the future. I didn't say this, but I knew she understood. Wong, you're such a jerk. She yelled angrily, her tone a bit high, and I couldn't help but move my phone away. When I brought the phone back to my ear, all I heard was a beeping sound. The call had ended. I sighed, tossed the phone aside, and slumped onto the stool as if I'd lost all my strength. Looking at the ceiling above, I told myself, it's over. I had lied to Elena many times, mostly about minor, harmless things. There were only 2 serious lies. The first was about Marcus. Back then, he had left decisively, cutting off contact with everyone. But when I was 26, we met by chance. Marcus was still the image of a wealthy young master, excellent even without his family's influence, successful in his career, surrounded by countless admirers. He was actually still young, but his eyes held a lingering sense of vicissitude. Only then did I learn that his sudden disappearance back then was truly because he had eloped, because his lover was a man and his family wouldn't accept it. Unfortunately, in the end, it wasn't the fallen young master who let go, but the person who had pulled him into the mortal world. I could do nothing but offer empty words of comfort, only saying to contact me if he needed anything. We resumed contact after that, but I didn't tell Elena, because at that time, she hadn't mentioned Marcus for a long time, and her career was thriving. I thought that if I tried harder, I could help her completely move on from her youthful obsession and embrace a new life with me. I overestimated myself. 2 years of effort yielded no progress. My multiple confessions were rejected mercilessly. When she mentioned her beloved, she still spoke of Marcus. But people always have to move forward. So I contacted Marcus, asking him for a favor. His grand return was actually at my request. I wanted Elena to sever her obsession, and I wanted to give myself one last chance. Now the ending was set. I admitted defeat. The second matter was about myself. I deliberately didn't tell Elena my departure time, even using people we both knew to give her the wrong time. But she still came. When I was about to board the plane, she had run in a hurry, her hair messed up by the wind, bending over to gasp for air. Nathan Rivers, you bastard. But I still came to see you off out of loyalty. Happy now. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, reaching out to fix her hair, but in the end, I couldn't resist messing it up again. It's my honor that Miss Summers came to see me off. But I'm about to board the plane, so let's stop here. Elena, I have to go now. You should go back too, and remember, don't look back. Are you afraid of being too reluctant to leave? Yes, so don't look back. I gave her a quick hug, quickly letting go, and turned to walk into the crowd. Well, now. Hearing her call my name, I raised my hand and waved, not looking back. The girl I'd liked for so long was about to start a new life, and I had to keep moving forward too. So, goodbye. Extra, Elena. On the day Nathan Rivers left, Elena went to see him off. He was smiling, no different from usual, but Elena felt a sense of unease. But what was there to be uneasy about? Nathan was just going abroad, not going to a funeral. How hard could it be to meet up again? But she just felt uneasy. She loudly called Nathan's name, and he waved at her, but he didn't look back. At that moment, she suddenly wanted to cry. If she was unhappy, she vented. She immediately called up her girlfriends and went to her usual bar for drinks. She didn't drink often, but when she was with her friends, she always couldn't help having a couple of drinks. She was the type who was bad at it but loved to do it. Nathan often criticized her, yet he couldn't do anything about it. Each time, he would grumble as he picked up the drunk her and would resignedly make her hangover soup when they got home. Occasionally, watching Nathan's busy figure, Elena would think that they would be quite nice together just like that. But the next second, she would shake her head vigorously, shaking off her unrealistic thoughts. The person she liked was Marcus. She was a devoted person and wouldn't change her heart so easily. Moreover, Nathan wasn't with her because of love. Although her friends called him the epitome of a devoted husband, and he would occasionally tease her with words of liking, Elena knew it was because Nathan was a dedicated actor. He had always been dedicated. That trait was apparent from the day they met. She knew it. Nathan was her good friend, a dedicated actor. Nothing more, nothing more. Those 4 words echoed in her mind. Elena accidentally drank too much again. Her stomach felt a little uncomfortable, so she subconsciously dialed a familiar number. When she found that the call couldn't be connected, she realized that he was probably on the plane now and wouldn't be able to answer her call. She suddenly felt very wronged. Elena, are you okay? Feeling unwell? Never mind, let me take you home first. Elena didn't refuse her best friend Sarah Chen's kindness. The latter hadn't been drinking and drove her home. But when the car arrived at the door, she suddenly didn't want to go in. This was the place where she and Nathan had lived together. Now that he was gone, this house suddenly felt so empty, so cold. She couldn't go in. She really couldn't. I don't want to go home. Sarah, let's go to a hotel. Sarah sighed, knowing her friend's heart was in turmoil, and drove her to a nearby hotel without saying much. In the following days, Elena tried to keep herself busy, throwing herself into work, meeting with clients, and planning new projects. She told herself she was fine, that Nathan leaving was just a temporary separation, that they would see each other again. But every time she returned to that empty house, every time she cooked dinner for 1 instead of 2, every time she reached for her phone to call him and remembered the time difference, her heart would ache. One night, 3 months after Nathan left, Elena sat in the living room with a glass of wine in her hand, staring at old photos on her phone. Photos of them at university, at their wedding, on random weekends when they'd gone out for candied hawthorns. She paused at one particular photo. It was taken by Sarah without them knowing. In it, Nathan was carrying Elena on his back, and she was laughing, her arms around his neck. But what caught her attention was Nathan's expression. He wasn't looking at the camera. He was looking at her reflection in a shop window, and his eyes held something she had never noticed before. Tenderness. Pure, unguarded tenderness. How had she never seen it? She scrolled through more photos, and suddenly every moment took on a new meaning. The way he always made sure she was comfortable. The way he remembered her favorite foods. The way he dropped everything when she needed him. The way he'd been there for every important moment of her life for 9 years. 9 years. Her hands trembled as she realized something that should have been obvious all along. Nathan hadn't been acting. A person couldn't pretend for 9 years straight. Those weren't the actions of a hired companion or a friend doing a favor. Those were the actions of someone in love. And she, fool that she was, had been so blind, so focused on a fantasy of Marcus that she'd missed the real love standing right in front of her. "I'm such an idiot," she whispered to the empty room, tears streaming down her face. She thought about all the times Nathan had hinted at his feelings, all the times she'd brushed it off as a joke. She thought about that last phone call, when he'd asked if she would consider him, and she'd deflected with a laugh. She thought about him boarding that plane, walking away without looking back, and suddenly understood why. It wasn't because he didn't care. It was because he cared too much, and he knew she'd never see him the way he saw her. Elena set down her wine glass and picked up her phone. She needed to tell him. She needed him to know that she finally understood, that she'd been wrong, that maybe, just maybe, they could try again. But as she stared at his contact information, doubt crept in. What if it was too late? What if he'd already moved on? What if her realization came too late? Still, she had to try. She began typing a message, deleting it, typing again. Finally, she settled on something simple. "Nathan, I'm sorry I was so blind. Can we talk?" She hit send before she could second-guess herself and waited, her heart pounding. The message showed as delivered, but no response came. 1 hour passed. Then 2. Then 12. Days turned into weeks. Elena kept herself busy, but every notification made her heart jump, hoping it was him. But Nathan remained silent. 3 years later, Elena stood at the arrivals gate of the airport, her heart racing. Sarah stood beside her, offering moral support. "Are you sure he's coming back today?" Sarah asked. "Yes, I checked with the university. His program ends this week. And if he doesn't want to see you..." Elena took a deep breath. "Then I'll respect that. But I have to try, Sarah. I have to tell him face to face. I've wasted so much time already." Passengers began streaming through the gate. Elena's eyes scanned each face anxiously, and then, finally, she saw him. Nathan looked different. More mature, more refined. His hair was slightly longer, and he wore glasses now that made him look professorial. But his eyes were the same, kind, intelligent, beautiful eyes. He was talking to a woman beside him, a pretty brunette who was laughing at something he said. Elena's heart sank slightly, but she steeled herself and stepped forward. "Nathan." He stopped mid-sentence and turned. For a moment, his face showed pure shock, and something else, something that looked like pain mixed with longing. But then he schooled his features into a neutral expression. "Elena. What are you doing here?" "I came to see you." Can we talk?" The woman beside Nathan looked between them curiously. Nathan gave her an apologetic smile. "Claire, could you give us a moment? I'll catch up with you later." Claire nodded, squeezing his arm before walking away. Elena tried not to feel jealous. When they were alone, Nathan looked at her expectantly. "So, talk." Elena's carefully prepared speech fled her mind. All she could do was speak from her heart. "I was wrong. About everything. I was so caught up in a childish fantasy that I couldn't see what was real. You were real, Nathan. Your love was real. And I threw it away because I was too blind to see it." Nathan's jaw tightened. "Why now, Elena? It's been 3 years. I know. I realized it 3 months after you left. I tried to contact you, but you never responded. I saw your message," he admitted quietly. I couldn't do it anymore, Elena. I couldn't keep hoping that maybe one day you'd feel the same way. It was killing me. I understand. And I don't expect you to forgive me or to feel the same way anymore. I just needed you to know that I finally figured it out. That I finally understand what you were to me, what you always were. You weren't my friend or my employee or my convenient husband. You were the person who truly loved me, and I was too stupid to appreciate it." Tears were streaming down her face now, and she didn't bother to wipe them away. "I love you, Nathan Rivers. I think I have for a long time, but I was too scared to admit it. Too scared that it wasn't real, that it was just because you were there. But it is real. I've spent 3 years missing you, regretting every moment I wasted, wishing I could go back and do everything differently. Nathan stood silent for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then, slowly, he reached out and wiped a tear from her cheek. You have the worst timing, you know that, he said, but there was a hint of a smile on his lips. I spent 3 years trying to get over you. 3 years convincing myself that what we had was just a transaction, that my feelings were one-sided, that I needed to move on. Did you move on? Elena asked, her voice barely a whisper. Nathan looked at her, really looked at her, and she could see the war happening behind his eyes. I tried, he admitted. I really tried. Claire, the woman I was with, we've been friends throughout the program. She asked me out several times. I always said no, and I could never figure out why. But seeing you here now, I know. It's because even after 3 years, even after everything, I'm still ridiculously in love with you, Elena Summers. Elena's heart soared. Really? Really? Though I must be an idiot, because you've put me through hell. I know. I'm so sorry. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you, if you'll let me. Nathan pulled her into his arms, and Elena melted into his embrace, breathing in his familiar scent. We're going to do this right this time, Nathan said firmly. No more transactions, no more pretending. If we're going to be together, it has to be real. It will be, Elena promised. It already is. I promise you, Nathan, I'll never take your love for granted again. I'll cherish it, cherish you, the way I should have from the beginning. Nathan pulled back slightly to look at her face. You know we have a lot to work through, right? Trust issues, communication, everything. I know. But I'm willing to do the work. Are you? For the first time since she'd seen him, Nathan gave her that smile, the real one, the one that had always been reserved just for her. Yeah, I am. God help me, I am. He leaned down and kissed her, and Elena felt like she was finally, truly coming home. As they walked out of the airport hand in hand, Elena felt lighter than she had in years. She'd wasted so much time chasing after a dream, not realizing that reality was so much better. Nathan. Yeah. Thank you for not giving up on me. Even when I'd given up on us. Nathan squeezed her hand. Some people are worth waiting for, Elena. You were worth the wait. And as they stepped out into the sunlight together, Elena knew that their story was just beginning, this time, the right way. The end.